Welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller. In our next segment, we'll spend a few minutes with Natasha Case. She's one of the brains behind the Cool House ice cream trucks. They're all over, and their upcoming 5th anniversary party, a new ice cream cookbook, all coming out. And, Christian, how have we been led to this segment? Certainly, I assume this is for a good cause.
Yes, it is indeed. And Natasha will tell us a little bit about the cause. But, yeah, they're having a 5th anniversary party down here in L.A. And because it's for charity, I refused comps. I'll have to actually pay to go.
You are such a little mini-mensch. Then, by the way, folks, do not forget this Sunday night, Christian's wife's Mad Men. And Christian was she able to work with the great Wiener on it? And no, I don't mean...
no, you don't mean her boss, Matthew Weiner.
Girl. But did she write with him or did she write solo?
The way it works is that you go off and write it. I mean, well, first you sit in the writer's room and you break the story, kids. And they all talk about it. And then the writer goes off and writes it and turns it in. And then Matt spends a little time rewriting it, usually over, a few nights. And, it's the process for everybody. And he gets a shared writing credit on this episode. Sure. So it'll say Matthew Weiner and Heather Jane Blatt. And for anyone who looks in their TiVo, they'll be able to see. The episode is called Field Trip. That's all I can say, because that's actually all I know.
God,
she doesn't tell me anything.
Must be so excited.
Very excited, yeah. We're going to have her parents and her sister over and a couple people. So we're very excited to watch it.
Wow, that's not your usual MO when you like to conquer her sexually while she's achieved something.
Yes, that'll be
as
soon as they leave. Or maybe, before they leave.
No, that's a field trip. I might come down and watch.
I feel like Draper might be able to pull that off.
Right.
Keep some broad in a
John
hotel room.
Slattery, her parents, sitting there like eyes wide shut.
Exactly.
All right. Well, then we'll catch up with a good friend of the show, Joe Connor. His father, Frank Connor, was killed by FALN terrorists at New York France's Tavern. And I know what you're saying. My God, what a horrific story indeed. And then imagine the coda to that story is the man who was working for their release becomes the top cop in the United States of America, Attorney General Eric Holder. My heart always goes out to this kid. But I must say, that being said, he does the exact right thing. He'll never stop. He'll never stop. It's like Sharon Tate's sister, right? You see her? She shows up every time, and she just holds a picture of Sharon Tate while they literally sit there and discuss whether Manson should get out. What a crazy world we live in. That's so much of our justice seems to be final on people who don't deserve final justice. Like, we bring the hammer down on some people who you shake your head at and go, wow, how did they get chilled like that? And yet we still have to have this farce where Charles Manson might get out. So, or where Eric Holder becomes the Attorney General in the United States. So I like that Joe is always there, always reminds us, and he's more than welcome to come here as long as I have the show and remind us of Attorney General Eric Holder trying, while he worked for Clinton, to get a pardon for these FALN terrorists who killed his father. All right, taking calls, 866-509-7268. Let's get to the soup of the day, which is spiced chicken stew with carrots. And it's brought to you by AutoZone. For the auto parts, accessories, and advice you need, get in the zone. AutoZone. You know what I like to mix in with my spiced chicken stew with carrots and Christians? Just give it a little taste.
What's that?
STP.
Would it be STP from AutoZone? Get in the zone?
That's why I said it.
But I would wash down that stew with an ice-cold Samuel Adams.
This is also good. I lost my friend Andy Granatelli last year. So rest in peace, Andy. He was a good cat. God, he had funny racing stories. I told you about the time he took me to Indianapolis, and we stayed in the world's skeeviest hotel right in the middle of the track.
I love bad hotel stories. I don't know if I remember this
Oh,
one.
I learned, much like some of the yogis, to levitate myself. I was still tethered because I hadn't gone deep enough into, quote, the arts,
Of course.
end quote, to master. Don't you love it when you're at a party? Is that, what signs do you have at a party? It's time to dive behind a sofa or say you have to wee.
Somebody busts out the arts.
Yeah, when somebody gives quote signs and says, "I've been a practitioner of the arts," geez, I gotta pee. And I said, "Geez."
I appreciate that, and so do our
I
friends.
know,
Listen.
but I'm just saying. I had to make a pact with myself because I was having trouble. I wasn't taking the Lord's name in vain, but it's an old habit of mine. But to some people, it's a distasteful one. And I was trying to say cheese and crackers, but geez, that was hurting. So I just took off the syllable at the end.
I think that works.
And is G's okay?
I believe so.
All right.
Jeeves, however, is not okay. Never say Jeeves' name out loud.
Why? Do we have some other internet thing that's not asked Mr.?
I'm just trying to get the Jeeves people's attention. We'll see what happens.
Anyway, where were we?
The arts.
The arts. Whenever I hear anybody talk about them being a practitioner of some sort of martial arts, float away. Because not only are they deadly boring, they're potentially deadly. You know, if you react poorly to their story about the arts, where, Lee could go in through your stomach, come up, get your heart, pull it out, and show it to you before you die. I'm always tempted to say, could he continue up, or was his arm not long enough, past the heart, up your throat, into your brain case, and selectively remove the part of the brain that's telling me this story?
I believe he could.
Well, then there's the problem. Because not only is he deadly boring at that point, he's irked. Now I've got an irked ninja on my hand. Hey. Are we, let's break that story down.
The irked ninja.
Now there is what do we, I don't think that's runs 2 seasons. I see that more as an 8 or 10 episode arc.
It's what we call an event series. Irked Ninja.
Irked Ninja.
Yeah. I can definitely.
No, you got to admit, that is a bang-up title.
I love Irked Ninja. You're kidding?
All right, taking your phone calls at 866-509-RANT, 866-509-7268. As I said, Carvey and I will be performing in Washington, D.C. on July 12th and Hollywood, Florida on July 13th. For more information, go to DennisMillerRadio.com and click on Dennis Live. I think I've attended that. Like I said, up next, all your phone calls at 866-509-7268. This here? Oh, howdy, ma'am. This is the Dennis Miller Show. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. And joining us now is Natasha Case. And she and her friend, and I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'll ask Natasha in a second, have formulated an ice cream company called Cool House. And you hear a lot of buzz about it with the crowd in L.A. Natasha, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Tell me about, pronounce first your business partner's name for me.
Freya Struller is my business partner at Cool House.
All right. So tell me, where is the birth of Cool House? Hatch it for me.
Yeah. So for me, actually, funny enough, my background is in architecture. Mm-hmm. Of course, very related to ice cream.
Well, I thought it was when I saw the HAUS appellation.
Exactly. Dead giveaway. And I went actually through architecture training 7 years straight, from undergrad to grad, and I started getting into this idea of bringing food into architecture as part of the conversation to kind of open it up and make it more approachable and fun and accessible for people. And I called this idea Farchitecture, food plus architecture. Yes. So sort of a silly-sounding word. But I started doing just different projects under that umbrella. And one of the first ones I did when I finished school was Cool House. It was, this idea of triple entendre with the name, after Bauhaus, the German architecture movement, Rem Koolhaas, who happens to be my favorite architect. And because ice cream sandwiches kind of look like little cold houses. It's kind of a stretch. But anyway,
it's a cute name, though.
Yeah, started making ice cream and cookies and naming the combinations after architects and just handing them out to friends at work as kind of comic relief for the impending doom of the recession. And it's just from there, you know, the idea caught on. It seemed like people like it, and I met Freya, who brought a lot of the business sensibility to things, and we decided to purchase a truck and hit the road pretty much.
My favorite architect, Philip Johnson, so I went and saw him speak one night, and he was mad as a hatter. It was one of those disappointing moments where they often say, don't meet your hero. Not that he was my hero, but at least architecturally, he and Frank Lloyd Wright. Since I grew up in Pittsburgh near Falling Water, always resonated with me. But I went to see Johnson, and I swear to God, he was bordering on the anti-Semitic. It was really creepy and weird. Anyway, it seems like, how many trucks do you have now? And we're talking to Natasha Case, and she has a company called Cool House, and it is with her business partner, Freya Estreller, I guess it's called. Perfect. And they're doing a 5-year anniversary party on May 2nd. How many, you hatch it with a truck, but how many do you have now?
So now we're 10 trucks nationally, 5 in L.A., 2 in Austin, Texas, 1 in Dallas, Texas, 2 trucks in New York, and actually a cart in Central Park. We also have 2 storefronts in L.A., and the biggest growth is we have distribution of our prepackaged ice cream sandwiches, bars, and pints in about 2,000-plus grocery store and retail outlets all around the country.
Look at you, you little budding Martha Stewart. You're going to become a mogul. Good for you, kiddo. Now, my brother represents his manager, Will Farrell, and I know Will digs these, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. We've catered his birthday a few times, and he actually gave us a nice little plug on I believe it was on the Today Show a few years back, but then he, asked for like a, $5 bill as a thank you for plugging us, and I just thought that was a bit much.
Well, listen, I like, you've obviously, folks, when, there's a point when your idea begins to blow up and you think, my God, is this really happening? I think it tends to make people simultaneously, they get a bit of a braggadocio, and then they usually temper that with some sort of feeling of humility where I've got to help somebody else because I can't believe I've had this good fortune. I think you're going to turn your 5-year anniversary party on May 2nd into something that'll help some charities, right?
That's right. We're a percentage of proceeds go to 9 Dots, which Freya Streller is very involved.
What is the cause again? I'm sorry.
It's called 9 Dots. It's like an after-school tutoring program for underserved kids, inner city, and Freya has been tutoring there for about 6 months once a week, so she's actively involved with them, and so we really wanted to give back to that particular cause.
Well, how sweet. Plus, you got to throw the kids a cone once in a while. There's tutoring, and then there's the cone. I mean,
exactly. And
where is it going to be? And tell us the details of it and how people can get tickets in the L.A. area.
Fantastic, yeah. The party, so May 2nd, 8 to midnight at the Unique Space, which is around 6 in Alameda in the Arts District in downtown L.A.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we've got, of course, endless ice cream sandwiches. We've got open cocktail bar. We have actually a gourmet jelly shop bar by Ludlow's Cocktail Company. Fried chicken by Free Range, Pizzanista Pizza, live music by Deluxe, which is an LA band we're so excited for. Paul Tao is a DJ. And you can get tickets on Eventbrite. We've been tweeting the link massively, but it's basically tinyurl.com/coolhouse5, like the number 5, and that's the best way to purchase tickets.
I have never felt more indelibly age 60 than after that paragraph. I realize my time has passed. I'm officially an old man now. As I heard you talking, I feel like Hank Fonda looking for breakwood out at the lake for my summer vacation. We're talking to Natasha Case, and once again, you can go to Eventbrite, BRITE.com. Portion of the proceeds from this party, their 5th anniversary party for Cool House, May 2nd, will go to the 9 Dots Children Charity in Hollywood. Sounds like a lovely endeavor, tutoring after schools for in-need children. And who else? You just can't have ice cream. I assume you have some entrees there, too?
Right. We've got free-range fried chicken, which is actually one of our former employees who spawned his own business. We're very proud of him. Pizzanista Pizza, which is an Arts District delicious pizza company that we love. They'll have a pizza oven there. We've also got a Cool House custom tote bag, which has a special 5-year graphic on there that I created myself since, I'm an architect and all, filled with dry soda, Cocoa Mel's, Mountain Valley water, a little savory gift from Whole Foods because they're actually a partner as well. Dwell is also partnering, so they're contributing. And, that Herbal Zap also for the next day after the party helps you get back on your feet. It's going to be in the tote bag. Deluxe live music. We have a live band there at the unique space, so it's going to be just, one hell of a party. I'm not going to lie.
Why don't you custom make your Cool House tote bags to have insulation on the inside? Since
that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, well, I would say go with it. And I often wonder how exactly free was the range that the free-range chicken was on if it ended up dead on a plate.
Right. I'd have to have a serious conversation with that chicken and see.
Somewhere there must have been a fence out on the perimeter line of the free range if the chicken ended up in my belly.
It's true. Well, you can put it anywhere on the plate you want when you eat it. That's also
that's a liberating thought. The Cool House ice cream book also available. Custom built sandwiches with crazy good combos of cookies, ice creams, gelatos, sorbets. That'll be available May 20th. Like I said, I like people in a culture that I don't often understand now when I hear people talking about job block. I love people who jump in hip deep, find a place, start to work it like, Mr. Miyagi with the bonsai shears, get it up and running, and get fat and happy, and then take care of people who they want to help. So good for you, kiddo. Go take a big bite out of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, Natasha Case, and it's Cool House, COOLHOHAUS. This is the Dennis Miller Show.
7268.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. Joining us now is our friend Joe Connor. I always have to remind some of the listeners, unfortunately, his father, Frank Connor, was killed by members of the FALN terrorist organization, who were then granted clemency by Eric Holder and the Clinton administration. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, good, Dennis. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Welcome. My pleasure. I was listening to Holder, and I was thinking, my God, how must this grate on our friend Joe Connor to hear Holder talk about, over the years, comments that he and Obama have somehow been treated more harshly because of their race. And when I think of you, I just think, wow, my friend's been treated harshly. I don't think it's about race, but certainly they know harsh treatment.
Yeah, I mean, you almost want to laugh, but it's so irritating and infuriating to hear him whining, literally whining about how he's been unjustly treated due to race. He kind of forgets about the release of the terrorists that killed my dad, about Mark Rich, about being held in contempt of Congress, about the voter intimidation, about Benghazi, about the terror trials being delayed. Here's a guy, Dennis, and I'm sorry for ranting, but here's a guy who accused Americans of being cowards when it comes to race, yet he won't even admit that it's his actions and not his race that has caused the backlash against him. So who's the coward? I mean, it's contemptible, so to speak.
Well, listen, there's the cowardly part of that, and there's the nasty part. I think this guy's a nasty piece of work, man. And when you have guys like him throwing the racist accusation around, I quite frankly think people ought to get out of his way because, man, God bless you. You got to hang in there because you owe it to your father's memory. But I think that Eric Holder can cause you a lot of problems in your life with that accusation.
Well, me personally, he probably could, but if Dennis, if we
you've got a sacred legacy you've got to uphold, though. I'm just saying, I think that guy would destroy somebody racially if he could, if they were on to something.
I think you're right. I think he would, and but you got to do what's right, and so if Holder, he is capable of anything. I mean, if you release terrorists that the FBI is telling you could still go kill people, what wouldn't you do? You know what I mean? So, I put nothing past him. And, but, someone's got to stand up to him. And, there's a lot of good people in this country that do. But we all got to tell the truth.
Well, I think in retrospect,
every day.
you were truth-telling and really prescient that the 2009 Senate Attorney General confirmation hearing, you said he lacked judgment, character, honesty, and belief system. But I'll tell you what, man, he serves as he's a made man for life. I think because he kind of sacrificed a lot of the things you mentioned there in your accusation to prove himself the president's man.
Yeah, he did, and it's funny because when I do look at that, it's like, wow, this guy's going to be Attorney General, and if I was able to see that, anyone really who was paying attention could have seen it. But almost half the Republicans even voted for him.
I know.
So it's
mind-boggling.
The fix was in. You know what I mean?
Mind-boggling. You think that they would have just said, we can't do this in lieu of, well, I would like to think Francis Tavern first because of you. But it seems to me that that's so far in the past, they have an easy way of assuaging that out of their guilt. But the Mark Rich thing, you know what I mean? There's just so many things that you would think they'd say, we can't approve this guy. But half the Republicans, as you said, pushed him through.
They voted for him. But this stuff will come up again. I mean, and I'm thinking, if Hillary's going to run, these releases were done to help her. So
right. Explain that connection there, Joe. We're talking to Joe Connor. And his father was unfortunately killed in a FALN terrorist attack at a New York City establishment called the Francis Tavern. And then Holder played a key part in going for the pardons of the people who perpetrated that crime, and that paid off for the Clintons, I guess. And so Hillary's entry into the race will fan the flames of it again, right?
Yeah, it was back in 1999 when Hillary Clinton was getting ready to run for senator from New York. She had no connection to New York. She was a total carpetbagger. So they concocted this idea if they released these terrorists and say that they were nonviolent terrorists, because they weren't specifically convicted of the Francis bombing, although they were part of the conspiracy that did it, and they admitted doing it and all that stuff in their notes when after the bombing had happened, and they were all convicted of 70 years in prison and sentenced to 70 years in prison. So they were trying to get Hillary some traction with the Latino vote. So they were telling the people here, and I live in the New York area, they were nonviolent, they were freedom fighters, they're really good people. And unless we had stood up, and it was my brother and me and some other people stood up and said, wait a second, do you know who they really were? And we made it very clear in 99, they would have just been released before we even, they would have been out of prison. We wouldn't have been able to even tell what they were like. But they didn't accept the clemencies right away. One of them didn't accept it at all and stayed in prison. 3 years ago, I went to the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, to face him, and we kept him in at his parole hearing. So these were really unrepentant terrorists. They were trying to get Hillary Clinton some traction in New York, and Eric Holder came up with this great idea when he was Deputy Attorney General under Clinton to have them released to get Hillary some traction in New York where she had nothing. And so she's going to have to answer to that when the big run comes in a couple of years, right?
Well, I certainly think you'll be there to ask the question, and must never forget. When we continue more with our friend Joe Connor, and your calls at 866-509-RANT. This is the Dennis Miller Show. I don't know about you, but I don't like taking pills for minor arthritis pain, and I don't like those patches either. But I have found something that works. Australian Dream Arthritis Pain Relief Cream. Doesn't smell, doesn't burn, isn't greasy, and it works. And Australian Dream has an empty jar guarantee. You can use the whole jar. If you say you're not happy, you get your money back. I don't think you're going to send it back. The stuff works. For relief from minor arthritis pain, get Australian Dream. Available at Target. Welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. Still with us, our friend Joe Connor. His father, Frank Connor, I should hit the refresh button, killed by FALN terrorists at the Francis Tavern in New York. And eventually, Eric Holder works for their release. Let's talk about your family has had to come to grips with the amazing righteous indignation you must feel on a daily basis. I'm looking at some of these 9/11 families now who are the 9/11 families at Gitmo, and they're pissed off about the terror trial delays, right?
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, these things have been delayed and delayed and delayed, and there's lots of stories whether the delays are coming from the defense or the prosecution. In my mind, it's mainly from the defense. They are trying to push this thing back, but I think the prosecution, which falls under Eric Holder, I think they're not innocent in this either. I think both sides have the goal of getting these trials out of Guantanamo Bay and into federal court in New York or some other jurisdiction. It would probably be New York. And so I think they're both on the same page when it comes to this. And so what happens is they delay it, they push it back. There are family members down in Cuba waiting for these things. And so no one's getting hurt except the family members again. And so what's happened is they've been politicized. The attacks, to me, I was there when my cousin was killed at the World Trade Center. I had commuted through the Trade Center. I saw the planes hit. My cousin Steve worked for Cantor, and so he was killed only a few blocks from my father. My father was killed almost 40 years ago when I was 9. But for family members, that time is irrelevant, and it brings back this pain. And so once again, the family members are being used as pawns with some political ping pong going on. And it's horrendous, really, is what it boils down to. They treat the family members with no respect because they're just looking to gain some political advantage.
Oh, imagine the surviving family members of the Cantor employees, and indeed everybody in both towers, when they hear Mayor de Blasio getting in. This always blew my mind when Nancy Pelosi got in. John Bolton. When Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House, her first gesture was to get rid of John Bolton in the UN. I'm amazed that de Blasio feels he has to make a statement by shutting down what has heretofore been a very successful surveillance operation, right?
Yeah. And in New York, where I live here, and they talk about is it political correctness that's shutting it down? And there's a couple of things going on with that. One is it's way past political correctness, and that term's been bandied about, and it sounds kind of innocuous, but it's really sinister. And like I said on Fox the other day, it's political correctness used to be a nuisance. Now it's a noose, and it's hanging around our necks, and people are going to die because of it. So it's nothing innocuous. It's nothing flimsy. It's a really sinister idea where you twist history and you twist your real beliefs for some political gain, and that's what that is. And the other part.
Why do you think Bratton's involved? Can I ask you before we go next? Bratton always seems to me to be a smart, savvy, live in the real world guy. How did they get
I know. So if you have a guy like him who's on board with this,
yes, he's giving it heft.
It's really scary. I mean, and when you think about it too, Dennis, like, why do we even know that there was this surveillance? Like, so we shouldn't. First of all, we shouldn't know there was this surveillance program, and we certainly shouldn't know when it's turned off, unless the politicians want us to know. And why would they want us to know? Because they get some political gain. So we're seeing once again that they're using the terrorism for politics. And the program itself why would they focus on the Muslims? Well, Willie Sutton said he robbed banks because that's where the money is.
Right.
It's the same thing. Unfortunately, that's where the terrorism today is coming from. And if you don't focus on it, then you're really doing you're letting your people down, and you're going to get people killed.
It's
a dangerous situation.
If you did and people always are going to bring up McVeigh, like everybody's been McVeigh or everybody's been a Tea Party member or fundamentalist Christian. But if you went back and did a LexisNexis search of This World headlines over the last 50 years of most acts of terror, it would have to be 99.9% have emanated from the radical Islamic fundamentalist community. So you go hang around there to try to get the information. It's just as maddening when Torricelli pushed through legislation that says our CIA wasn't allowed to deal with felons. And you thought, for God's sakes, who are we going to get information from?
Exactly.
The good guys? We cut off our nose to to blow up our state.
You know, Dennis, like the politicians are so far removed from what the actual people go through. When I testified at Holder's confirmation hearing, you know, it was like Jeff Sessions, who I actually like, but Patrick Leahy and Arlen Specter and these guys sitting like above, looking down on the people testifying, and it was really symbolic to me of the way they behave. They're condescending. They believe that we are, and this way I was taking it as they talked to me, like I was sort of the poor dreg of society that, you know, I would have terrorism happen in my family twice. Like that couldn't happen to them. So they live in this world that is so removed, and the founders would have been appalled by
jerks.
These career politicians.
You
know,
even
I
the
never
good ones
was
are
in favor
jerks.
of term limits, but my God, we need to get these bums out and bring in fresh blood who actually know what's going on in this country.
Citizen politicians, as opposed to politicians, citizens.
Yeah.
Look at this Bundy guy out in Nevada, for God's sakes. Now they're going to start, look at this Bundy guy out in Nevada. Now they're going to start painting him as the problem, when after all, at some point, can we stop shutting people's lifestyles down for tortoises and Delta smelts? I mean, you're begging for problems when you do this. Yeah, sure, the guy's been driven apoplectic to the point where, you know, he's bridling at local legislation and fines and stuff. And there's a party that thinks, well, if we don't have laws, we have chaos. If we're going to have laws like we found a tortoise on your property, you can't graze, we're asking for trouble. That's insane.
Well, look out by where you live, right? Aren't they
the Delta
droughts because of a fish? I think you meant.
There's a little fish that resembles a spermatozoa on human growth hormone, and it lives. And they're shutting down water flowing to the most fertile farmland in not only California, indeed some of the world, to preserve this thing. I went up and met with men one night who had part of their farmland shut down. They wanted me to try to do something. I talk about it on the air. They were so beaten down, man. You could see the sallow look in their eye. Like, can you believe they've done this to me and my family? And then they'd show me a picture of the smelt. It's crazy.
And the Bundy thing is the same case. And, you know, and it's funny because I was thinking about the Bundy case, too. And I'll tell you, one thing I haven't heard mentioned is I think this Bundy case is the complete justification when the founders put in the Second Amendment. Because if his supporters and the other ranchers in that area didn't show up with guns, and I'm not saying I want a gunfight or anything like that, far from it, but if they didn't, do you think the feds would have returned his property to him, or do you think they just would have run roughshod over the group there? I think when the founders said they were trying to stop a tyrannical government by allowing people to defend themselves, I think that's exactly what just happened in Nevada. And you know, I'm not a proponent of lawlessness, but my God, when we have a government where our president is changing the rules on Obamacare every week and then lecturing people that we have to abide by the law, you know, it does make you feel like our government's getting a little bit out of hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I also don't know how to go down the route where you talk about people showing up with guns in any way, except I guess at this point I still have to say I wish they'd tried it without the guns, the citizens, and seen, because somebody's going to get blown up. I mean, it's just, listen, it's going to be Kent State. So it's going to be Kent State. Somebody's going to get an itchy trigger finger and somebody's going to get killed. So I wish these confluences or these contentious things would take place without guns, but I guess they're not for a while. And it's only a matter of time in my book. So if you ask me, do I wish Bundy and all his friends would have shown up the first time without guns? Yes, I do. And that's asking way more of them than you'd ask of the government. But the government are dolts. But I do know this. It would have proved to the world in some sort of Mahatma Gandhi way that they would have just shunned them away. And then maybe the next time when it happens, people start to understand more that you just cannot push people around without pushing them to the edge.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but you know, the Fed showed up with lots of weapons, and you know,
no, that was bad. That was wrong on their part.
Yeah, it was, and I said I'm not in favor of a gunfight, but I'm thinking that people stood their ground, and you know, no one did get hurt, thank God, but people actually did stand their ground against their own country.
Well, keep in mind they took.
I was born in 1966, so Kent state, I think it was 1970. I was a little kid when that happened, but we haven't seen much of that, and thank God, nothing. It didn't escalate.
Well, listen, know this. Cliven Bundy lost his ranch that day. At age 65, they're going to bank on the actuary tables. He's probably out in 10 to 15 years. When his kid goes to take it, because he'll will it to him, it won't be there for him. It'll have been put a lien put on it, and they'll own it. So it was a happy day in a way. I remember thinking, good for this guy. He got sick of it, and nobody got hurt. And then on the other end, I thought, but that poor SOB just lost his ranch right there. I don't know what's going to happen down the road, Joe. My imagination allows me to think about it, but my mouth doesn't allow me to say it out loud. But something weird's coming in this world if they're going to keep taking farmers' livelihoods away from them over tortoises. Something wicked this way comes.
I'm with you, man. And it's sick that we can see it happening, and we have some power, but not enough power to stop it.
Yeah, because you know what? We're civilized. I mean, nobody wants to start what has to, happen to, in some people's minds to overturn this. We keep thinking, well, let's just wait and see. Certainly the government will wake up. They'll wake up. They'll get it. You can't do this. They're not.
They're not. And it goes, Dennis, it doesn't have to happen. This stuff just happens slowly. As half the country's watching the Kardashians, they're getting their country taken away from them.
Yeah, the sun is blotted out by the ass. All right, Joey. Good to talk to you, brother.
My pleasure, Dennis. Take care, my friend.
All right, Joe Conner. And I ran Dennis Miller.
The Dennis Miller Show.